If you're going to make an equation out of this, you have to consider both patterns. The independent variable x is going up by 1. The dependent variable y is going up by 2. When you make your equation for this, we're always going to start with y equals, because we are talking about how does the dependent variable change depending on what happens with the dependent variable. And the way that this is going to work is we start with the change in y over the change in x. Whatever that fraction is, and sometimes it makes a whole number, we have that number times x. This is always going to be the beginning of every formula that we make. So let's start with this. The little triangle in front of y is a Greek letter delta. Delta y, this represents the change in y over the change in x. Some of you might want to actually write that down in words if you don't remember what this symbol means. So this is the change in y over the change in x, and then we will multiply that by x. How much is y changing? By 2. And it's adding 2, so we're going to treat it as a positive 2. So we're going to start with y equals 2 over. How much is the x changing?
1.
By 1. And again, it's adding 1, so we're going to say plus 1, positive 1. So 2 over 1 times x. What is 2 over 1? It's just 2, the whole number 2. So this equation starts with y equals 2x. Now that was only the first step. There is more to this. Now that we have figured out how things are changing, we also have to consider where we began. Take the first number in your list and plug it in. If I plug in a 1 for x, what is 2 times x? 2. This isn't a 2. This is a 14. How much more do I have to add to this, or how much would I need to subtract to get to 14? Right now, when I plugged in a 1, I got 2. But I need to get to 14. How many more do I need to add if I need to go from 2 up to 14? 12. I need to add 12 more. If I plug in a 1, 1 times 2 is 2, plus 12 more got me to the 14 that I started with. Try this for the other numbers as well. If I plug in a 2, what is 2 times 2? 4. If I add 12 to that, there's my 16. Plug in the 3. 2 times 3 is 6. If I add 12 to that, there's that 18. So you're going to start every one of these with, what's the pattern here? The pattern for the y, the pattern for the x. How much did it change? That fraction, 2 over 1, which is a whole 2, is what's going to be attached to the independent variable, x. Then we go back up here, we plug in the first number, and we say, how much more do I add? Or sometimes, how much do I need to subtract from that to get this actual number?